Good evening. I'm Chantella Mitchell, Chair of the New York City Rent Guidelines Board, and I would like to welcome you to this meeting of the board. This is the last meeting in a series of public meetings and hearings to determine lease adjustments for rent-stabilized housing units in New York City with leases commencing or being renewed on or after October 1st, 2026, and on or before September 30th, 2027. I will now take roll call. Please respond if present. Arpit Gupta.
Present.
Brandon Mancia.
Present.
Lauren Melodia.
Present.
Sagar Sharma.
Present.
Sina Sinai.
Present.
Adon Soltran.
Present.
Maxim Nguyen.
Present.
And Chantella Mitchell, present. Let the record show that we do have a quorum. Before we proceed to the motions, I would like to make a few brief comments on this process. First, I would like to thank the many New Yorkers, tenants, owners, independent researchers, policy experts, advocates, and public officials who have participated in the process of determining rent adjustments for New York's nearly 1 million rent-stabilized apartments. I want to especially recognize the nearly 330 people who testified their personal experiences at our 4 public hearings, as well as the nearly 700 who submitted written audio and video submissions. Thank you. Second, I would like to thank the staff of the RGB for their exceptional research and analysis, as well as coordinating our meetings and public hearings. Their professionalism and objectivity are essential to ensuring that the board's decisions are fully and accurately informed. Finally, I want to express my gratitude to my fellow board members here tonight for volunteering their time, their insights, their care, and their dedication to our work together. Thank you. And with that, let me turn to the work, and we will begin with our hotel order. I move to adopt the final language of Proposal 1 for the hotel order, number 56. This proposal was circulated to the members of the board and posted on the RGB website on June 19th, 2026. And I further move to adopt the explanatory statement and findings for hotel order number 56, substantially in the form submitted by staff to the board as of June 24th, 2026, and to be modified by the RGB staff after this meeting to reflect the adopted rental adjustments. A summary of Proposal 1 is as followed. Residential Class A apartment hotels, 0%. Lodging houses, 0%. Rooming houses, Class B buildings containing less than 30 units, 0%. Class B hotels, 0%. And single-room occupancy buildings, MDL Section 248 SROs, 0%. Any debate on the motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
I will now call for the vote. Arpit Gupta?
Yes.
Brandon Mancia?
Yes.
Lauren Melodia?
Yes.
Sagar Sharma?
Yes.
Sina Sinai?
Yes.
Adon Soltran?
Yes.
Maxim Nguyen?
Yes.
Chantella Mitchell? Yes. The motion passes. We will now consider proposals for apartment and loft order number 58. I move a motion to adopt the final language of Proposal 1 of the apartment and loft order number 58 that was circulated to the members of the board and posted on the RGB website on June 19th, 2026. And I further move to adopt the explanatory statement and findings for apartment loft order number 58 substantially in the form submitted by staff to the board as of June 24th, 2026, and to be modified by the RGB staff after this meeting to reflect the adopted rental adjustment. A summary of Proposal 1 is as followed. 1-year lease, 0%. 2-year lease, 0%. Lofts, 1-year increase period, 0%. 2-year increase period, 0%. Special guideline and decontrolled units, 49% above the maximum base rent. Any comments before I call for the vote? Second?
Second.
I will now call for the vote. Arpit Gupta,
No.
Brandon Mancia,
Yes.
Lauren Melodia, Sagar Sharma,
Yes.
Sina Sinai,
Yes.
Adan Soltran,
Yes.
Maxim Nguyen.
Okay, so given the recent conversation about board independence and data,
Everyone, please
I'm
listen
going
to
to read a
this.
statement in full. As the owner's representative, my primary concern is ensuring that rent-stabilized buildings are able to operate in a way that is financially sustainable for their owners and does not endanger their physical condition. Past boards have reasonably assumed that the best way to ensure sustainable operations is to increase legal rents. However, the data this board has reviewed suggests that for buildings with income to expense issues, increasing legal rents may counterintuitively decrease income. That is because buildings with income to expense issues are also buildings where rent increase could have the most negative impact on economic occupancy. Economic occupancy, or the percentage of the owed rent that is actually collected, decreases when tenants are unable or unwilling to pay their rent. According to testimony from the New York Apartment Association, or NYAA, and the Furman Center, the buildings with the greatest income to expense issues are pre-1974, 90% stabilized buildings. The NYAA also asked this board to center its decision on making these buildings, which is what I have done. The Furman Center describes pre-74, 90% plus stabilized buildings as the ones where housing has the lowest income, most rent-burdened tenants. Unsurprisingly, these are the buildings with the lowest economic occupancy. According to testimony from REBNY, economic occupancy in pre-74 buildings is 90%, while it's closer to 97% in post-73 buildings, where tenants typically have higher incomes. Taken together, this means that tenants in pre-74, 90% plus stabilized buildings are struggling to pay rent, and their rent has gone up 12% over the last 4 years. If this board raises the rent 2% for one-year leases, and that causes a single additional household in the median 16-unit building to stop paying rent, that will result in a 6.25% decrease in annual rental income, or roughly a 4.25% decrease. While increases in rent may counterintuitively decrease rental income, that does not mean that no economic intervention is needed. These buildings and their owners are struggling, and they need a decrease in expenses as well as an increase in the availability of capital. Policymakers at the city, state, and federal levels have the ability to make the expense and capital interventions that these buildings and their owners need. These policymakers need only the political will to commit the resources required to sustain this at-risk segment of the rent-stabilized stock. According to NYAA, there are as many as 5,000 distressed buildings among the 90% plus stabilized pre-74 stock, despite a 12% rent increase over the last 4 years. This level of distress points to systemic issues at the expense side of the ledger. While current economic occupancy levels create a counterintuitive relationship between rent increases and building income, no such dynamic exists on the expense side. A decrease in expenses causes a direct proportional increase in net operating income, or NOI. The good news is that the majority of costs, according to HPD, are concentrated in expenses that can be addressed through policy interventions. These costs, taxes, insurance, and utilities are ones that are generally increasing, but that the city, state, and federal governments have the tools to intervene in directly. The insurance cost containment intervention recently unveiled by the city is a good first step, but it must only be the first of many. Further interventions must be made to decrease the cost of both property taxes and utilities. While I leave it to policymakers to structure the specifics, there are clear precedents and existing programs that can be expanded to provide relief for operators of rent-stabilized buildings. For example, on the tax exemption side, there are numerous programs that provide tax relief to different categories of rent-stabilized buildings, but there's not an as-of-right exemption for pre-74, 90% plus stabilized building. The state must create such an exemption as soon as possible. Doing so would provide much-needed relief for these buildings, which are the ones with the most severe income and expense issues, to reduce owners' utility expenditures, eligibility for DEP's multifamily water assistance program should also be expanded. Doing so would offer expense relief to both pre-74, 90% plus stabilized buildings, and the vast majority of buildings that are rent stabilized, government subsidized, and income restricted. Currently, only this latter category is eligible for the program. The program is underfunded to the point that in 2025, it provided relief to only a quarter of this category's stock and covered only a quarter of their water costs. This community's new housing plan promises to double the number of covered units in 2026, but this additional investment is not nearly enough. The program must be expanded to cover both of the above segments of the rent stabilized stock in their entirety to cover a greater share of these buildings' water costs. To further reduce owner expenses, the federal government should expand eligibility for the federally funded Home Energy Assistance Program, or HEAP, while the state's New York Public Service Commission should expand the Energy Affordability Program, or EAP. HEAP and EAP both currently discount low-income households' gas and electricity bills. For pre-74, 90% stabilized buildings and rent-stabilized government-subsidized housing and income-restricted buildings, the program should be expanded so that it only covers units' gas and electricity bills when they are paid by the owner. Testimony provided to the RGB by a small property owners of New York member demonstrates both why these expense reductions are needed and the benefit at this moment in time on focusing on reducing expenses rather than increasing rent. The member of the operator is a 21-unit family-owned, 100% rent-stabilized building that was built in 1924. Only 20% of the units are occupied, and the operator has a preferential rent roll that is only 90% of their legal rent. Perfectly in line with Rebney's testimony, the economic occupancy of their preferential rent roll is 90%, which is only 82% of their legal rent roll. This likely means that multiple tenants are not paying their full rent if they're paying their rent at all. Despite all of this, the building's NOI was positive at about $67,000 per year or $3,200 per unit. However, that was not enough to cover the nearly $100,000 per year the operator pays in debt service. The financial hardship this building faces is primarily driven by its rising expenses. In 2025, the property taxes, insurance, and water sewer charges total roughly $79,000. City and state policymakers have the ability to reduce these expenses, thereby addressing the building's needs with expense-side intervention. Reducing just these three expenses by roughly 40%, or fully abating the building's property taxes, and reducing insurance as well as water and sewer by just 15%, would result in the building being able to not only cover their debt service, but also to have positive net cash flow. Inversely, should this board increase the legal rent for this building by 2%, and should that increase cause even a single additional average tenant to stop paying rent, the result would be a 3% net decrease in income and a 26% decrease in net cash flow. This operator's testimony shows that the best outcome for buildings like theirs is for the city and state to directly invest in reducing their expenses, while this board gives tenants incomes times to catch up, thereby strengthening the building's rent roll. I'm going to skip the HPD capital interventions side because I know everyone wants to go home. I'm going to skip all the way to the conclusion. Taking a step back, there's a subset of the rent-stabilized stock that is in real distress, but the underlying causes are systemic ones. Those systemic issues need to be addressed, but at this moment, the tools this board has are more likely to cause harm to owners rather than help, while the tools that the city and state have will definitively help. The city's new insurance program is a good indicator of intent, but the relief it provides is only a fraction of what is needed. The city and state must follow up with much more support to ensure the stock's long-term viability. Still, at this moment in time, with the city taking the first steps towards the capital and expense interventions owners need, and the imminent risk of cratering economic occupancy, a 0% increase on 1- and 2-year leases is in owners' best interest. I vote yes.
Chantella Mitchell, yes. The motion passes. Before we close, I want to note that I have prepared a statement outlining the basis for my proposal. It explains why I believe a 0% adjustment for 1 and 2 year leases is fair and responsible approach this year. It's one that reflects the depth of affordability challenges facing tenants while recognizing the real pressures that owners continue to face. Some hard copies of my statement will be available at the end of this meeting, and it will be posted on the board's website, nyc.gov/RGB, later tonight. I encourage everyone to read it, and I would instruct the staff to include that statement as part of the record and transcript of this meeting, along with any other statements, including Max's, that were submitted to staff by the member of this board. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second? We're adjourned. Thank you.